Welcome to Real Money Talks. Real strategies from the moneymakers and the world changers that you can use to make millions, keep those millions, multiply your wealth, and build your team. Here's your host, author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, money expert on Dr. Phil, CNN, CNBC, The Street TV, Fox News, and The View, Laurel Langmeyer.
Hey, this is Laurel, and welcome back to Laurel's Real Money Talk. It's a podcast where we're talking about money and business. How do you make money? How do you keep it? What are all the ninja strategies of the millionaires? I would say the rules of the rich that no one tells you about in full detail. How do you invest money? And how do you do alternative investing so you can get out of the stock market? That's a rock and roll arbitrage, crazy place out there. And how do you use a team? So I always bring you someone as an amazing guest to talk about one of those categories. Today I have Tyler Cerny on. He actually is a podcast master. So it's going to be very fun. We're going to talk about how do you monetize, create new income, and generate inside these podcasts that, I'd say, Tyler, you can tell me, but I would say thousands and thousands, if not millions of people are now starting their own podcasts. So with that, let me introduce Tyler properly. He's a Christian husband, international speaker, consultant, author, director of partnerships at Top 10 Podcasts. He has worked in some of the biggest names. So he's worked with Tony Robbins. I've also shared a lot of stages with him. Grant Cardone, same with him. Russell Brunson from Clickfunnels, specializes in growing companies, has made over $7 million in this space. And we're happy to have him. And I'm hoping to get some good tips myself. So welcome, Tyler.
Absolutely. Excited to be here. Anytime I go onto a show, I love being around with people that have that growth mindset, people that want to make their lives better so they can impact not only their personal life, but the people around them, and ultimately make some more money to do that as well. So super excited to be here and excited to give your audience some great information so they can grow their brand, make more money, and make more impact as well.
Thank you. So I'm gonna really dig in and ask question upon question. Let's start. Let's know more about you and how did you end up in the podcast space? So where did you arrive from? What was your journey to this spot?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I used to be an athlete my whole entire life. Probably till about 5 or 6 years ago. Played collegiate football, played international basketball overseas in China, and so I always had a competitive nature. Hence, I got into personal development. I listened to Jim Rohn one day and I was like, dude, this guy's awesome. I want to do exactly what he does. And so that kind of got me down this path of personal development, online marketing. Since then, it's been about 7 years since I've been in this space of working with online entrepreneurs, understanding online marketing, understanding how to make money online so I can travel the world, work remotely, and make, enormous amounts of money that the stock market and other things can't provide immediately. So that's kind of how I got into the space. And now just over the last 2.5 years since COVID, podcasting and everything that was going on with Joe Rogan getting bought out with Spotify for $200 million, and a lot of people moving in this direction. Look at Oprah, Joe Rogan, Jay Shetty, Lewis Howes, you name it. They all have podcasts. So I'm like, wow, this is something that, is something that is providing an amazing opportunity. And so for me, for being in the space, I saw the opportunity to really double down on this specific sector of the space and then just really learn it so I can teach people, because at the end of the day, it's focusing on getting more exposure so you can grow your audience so then you can eventually make more money and make more impact. And so for me, that's what I love, and I love to speak. And so podcasts essentially are people that want to speak, but instead of speaking on a physical stage, they're now speaking on a virtual stage.
So what's the origination of podcasts, right? I remember I moved from, the old fashioned blogs, because I'm probably, a little bit older, been in the space a lot, 20 plus years. If I add the Kiyosaki years, I've been in the space since 1996, long time. So, there was hardly even websites or anything up then. There was sure in the heck wasn't any funnels. There were basic little baby CRMs. There wasn't social media. So blogging was kind of the thing to do, and getting articles written and posted was, how a lot of us all got started. And I was blessed to actually take stages with Jim Rohn as well. But how did podcasts move? Like, how did they originate? What was that transition?
One thing here, the smartphone here, because if you think about it, right, you have TV and radio, and these are all forms of how do I create content? How can I reach the masses? Before, with TV and radio, that barrier to enter was higher, right? Not everyone could start a TV show, not everyone could start a radio show. But nowadays, basically anyone can create a podcast if you have a smartphone or a computer. And there are some third-party softwares you need. Like, you can do that very quickly. Same thing with a YouTube channel. Now with Roku and Peacock and all these different streaming sources, now you can actually create your own TV show. So now that barrier to enter is now has decreased significantly. So now at that point, it not only gives you an opportunity, but it's also going to be a lot harder to also stand out, because now a lot more people are going into the space. Specifically 2.5 years ago when COVID hit, a lot of people moved into the podcast space. So just with anything, with radio, blogging, TV, podcasting, it's just a form of medium to reach your audience and then ultimately connect with them and then eventually monetize. But what was really special about podcasting, because if I go on a TV network, let's say I go to CBS and I do a TV show, or let's say I pay millions of dollars for a Super Bowl commercial, or I go to iHeartRadio and start a radio show. All three of those things, the reason why people would pay money and invest time, energy, and effort, why is because they want access to the audience. They want distribution to that fan base or whoever's tuning in there. And the reason why podcast is so innovative and why a lot of people are going into this direction is that you can essentially build your own network, and a network where basically anything goes. And so I always like to use Joe Rogan as an example. I mean, Joe Rogan got on an interview with Elon Musk and then they smoked a joint together, right? And so now this podcast space has gotten to a place where, unlike social media, if you make a post on COVID or anything political or controversial, you could get flagged and they can just take down the post. Why? Because they own the platform. You have no control over it. Where the podcast space now is anything really goes. You can really talk about it, talk about certain topics. And then if you build your own audience and following, you're essentially becoming your own network. And then now you can distribute sponsorships. You can start, monetizing different ways, the same exact way as if you were on iHeartRadio or as if you were a TV network or a radio station. Because now, why? Because you have an audience, you have distribution, and now you have control. And that's exactly why Joe Rogan got bought out for $200 million off Spotify, is because he has that distribution, and he's now creating an experience where someone, instead of going to watch cable TV for 3 hours, can go tune into a Joe Rogan, turn it on their TV, go to YouTube, and now watch the full episode and be entertained for 3 hours. And now that podcast is now filling that void. And now YouTube is actually creating a little tab specifically for podcasts. So it is just another form to communicate, entertain, and educate people. And there's even a joke that's like, if people are talking in conversation, it's like, where did you hear that from? Well, people were like, hey, I heard it on a podcast. So then that's also bringing up another side of things where it's like the authority that people have that have podcasts, it's rated as very, very high, that if I hear it on a podcast, I automatically perceive it to be true as well. And that's kind of where our society is at right now. I heard it on Joe Rogan's show. It must be true. And and so that's kind of where it's developed. So if you are a podcast host, you can have serious influence and over the market for your business, and to really share an important message out to the world too.
So Tyler, from everyone listening, right? I have listeners from all over the world. I've been doing this for several years. What would you say to those folks who've been thinking about a podcast, right? Is there a space that is off limits? Because I have truck drivers, I have, guys who own limo companies, I have, commercial cleaning companies, storage, containers to, RV parks. I mean, I think, but I also have, again, a growth mindset about things and expansive and creative. I think anyone can do it. I think as long as they're willing, at least to start on audio. So I want some of your tips for those that are out there that have been thinking about it, standing around, their business isn't generating or growing enough, but they're scared to start because they also don't see a lot of people in their industry. I know it's a really broad question, but
Sure.
You see where I'm going, like there's just too many people I think that could be winning and they won't go.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I always like to bring it back down to what their ultimate objective is, right? And those examples that you brought up, truck drivers, limo drivers, like that's one of the best things with podcasts. That is one of the only pieces of content that I can consume safely while driving a vehicle is through a podcast. So getting clear on what the direction you want to head, what type of business that you want to create, and what the audience that you want to reach, because it really does come back down to that. And also keep in mind that podcast is one of the only platforms that someone will be willing to listen to that individual for 30, 60 minutes, maybe 2 to 3 hours, because it is now that longer form piece of content versus all the other socials. It's TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. It's all short form content. Like all those platforms, where the podcast is going to be longer form. So number one, if someone's thinking about it, really get clear on what the end objective is. And then it's like, okay, well, I want to build a brand, and I want to show myself as the authority. Let's say that's the route that you want to take. And what you mentioned is maybe not a lot of people in the industry are doing it. Like if you're a real estate agent or a mortgage broker or maybe a truck driver, whatever the case may be, like that is going to allow you to stand out, because you can get exposure. You can become an authority in a lot of different ways. Like you can also do that through creating video content consistently every day. So, it's really getting clear on what the objective is, figuring out who your audience is, and then getting clear on what's the best way to communicate with them. Are they on Instagram? Are they on TikTok? Are they going to be listening to longer form podcasts? And if it's all three, then that's when a podcast most likely makes the most sense, because you can do an audio and video podcast. And then through that, you can use it for YouTube. You can then dice it up into all the social media platforms. So now you've just tapped into just really outsourcing that piece of your life, because a lot of people, maybe they don't like the content creation process. They just kind of want to do one thing, kind of set it and forget it. This is one of the best ways to kind of create one high quality piece of content, build authority, build credibility, and then also feed, I like to say, all the other social media platforms, because you can dice it up into multiple forms of content, literally for every single platform, which is only going to get you more exposure.
And so when people are thinking about that, because that's a lot of people I coach, right? They'll find me on TikTok, through my podcast, or my YouTube channel. I'm out on every platform. But when they'll come, they'll say, well, what am I going to talk about? Like, so like when you say, what's their end objective? What kind of coaching or advice to sort that end objective? Because what I see over and over and over, and this even when people who say and come to me and say, I want to write a book, right? And they want to get a book going. Well, I think they got to have a bigger ticket on the back end, or some sort of continuity membership to get going. So give some direction to how do you pick that ideal, what's your
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cause there's really two buckets. Like you're either a business owner or you're not. And so if you are a business owner, you really have to look at and take an honest evaluation of your business and be like, okay, do I have proof of concept? Do I have a successful, scalable business model? And do I know the market? Because if you do know all those things, podcasts should be absolute no-brainer for you, because that's going to get you more exposure, build more credibility, build more authority. People are going to be able to hear your voice. You'll be able to leverage, expand your network, because you can bring on really cool people, which could not only turn into business opportunities, but draw bigger audiences to you, which results in new business. So if they're at that stage, absolutely. I think we're like everyone that's listening is kind of on that page. If they're not on the business, and this is kind of the objective that I was talking about, and even the book, is that some people will be like, hey, I want to start a podcast, and I'll ask them and they'll tell me about their business. And they're like, I want to start a podcast to grow my business, but they can only take on, maybe they're a consultant and they can only take on 3 to 5 new clients within the next 30 days, because then their time's going to be capped out and it's a very intensive process. So then the question becomes, what's going to be the best way to get 3 to 5 new clients? And so can you do that through a podcast? Absolutely. But can you do that elsewhere? I tell people absolutely as well. So it's really getting clear on what type of business infrastructure they have. If they don't really have a scalable model, they don't even have a business model, you can start a podcast, but are you really an authority in that space at that point? And, unless you have a very specific life experiences or you're an expert, that's when I think you should move into writing a book or starting a podcast, because those are the authority leaders. And that's kind of what's going on in the podcast and social media space right now, is that it's so low to enter that anyone and everyone is doing it, right? And so if you do it at that standpoint, you can do it, but just know that you're going to have minimal traction, because you lack the brand recognition, and you lack the influence and the experience and the knowledge, and you're going to struggle to get downloads and subscribers at that point, right? So at that point, if someone's starting off, what I would recommend is, get really clear on, what they want to talk about. If they're not even at that level yet, they need to work with someone, or, go in different industries and really become an expert at whatever it is that they wanted to do. And for me, it was sales. Like, that's how I first started in the online space, is that if I can just figure out sales, I know that's going to provide me any opportunity I need to provide for my family, my future kids, and all those things. And then through that, build relationships, build life experiences before I can really earn the right. Because that's really what it is. You have to earn the right, in my opinion, to be an author and to be a podcast host. And there's different philosophies on that too, even as a speaker, because there is one philosophy is like, hey, I'm going to become a speaker. I'm going to talk about time management. And so I'm just going to build my life and my career around time management, which is great. But my philosophy on it, the other philosophy is, let me do all this really cool stuff in business and, building corporations, sales, marketing, and online space. And then as a byproduct of it, then I'm going to have a bunch of content to talk about, right? Whether it's on speaking, or whether it's a podcast, or whether it's creating video content. But yeah, if someone's like, what do I talk about? They're probably not ready for it yet, because they're not experienced or have enough knowledge in their current space. Because once you're at that level, I mean, like, I know me and you could go back and forth on so many different topics for so long, because we're not talking on a theory. We're talking about, hey, this is what we've done. This is what I saw that worked. This is what I saw that didn't work. And these would be the things that I would change moving forward. And if you can come from a place of sharing, and you're not talking just high level theory and philosophy, that's when you're in a really great place of the truth and your authentic voice. And if you have that, that's when you can really step into your personal power. And that's also understanding what your purpose is too. And everyone has that voice. Everyone has a purpose here on this earth. And it's just getting clear on what that is. And if you can just become the very best at it, you can start creating content there. But if you come from that place and have that pre-frame, then that's when I would start to write a book and, start these things. And
Well, and what I tell a lot of my clients, because what we do when we help people make money in the making money category. So I know there's people, like Russ, that focus on certain categories, but mine is integrated wealth. I focus on every category with a team of experts. So it's an integrated plan. And what's interesting, when so many people first come into the space, it's, I got to do a podcast, or I have to write a book. And I don't know where you are. I'm curious. I tell them, just start talking. I started talking under the Rich Dad Poor Dad brand in 1996. So how I tell a lot of people who want to enter a space and not expert in spaces, do what I did. Find the best damn brand in the world and get on that team and get as close to them as you can, and understand, when I was there that whole time, and I was around, the greats, right? Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Bob Proctor, Mark Victor Hansen, Robert Allen, Brian Tracy, all those guys, Sharon Lechter. And I just kept watching the space, and how I found my authentic voice, and my kind of funny, sarcastic one, I'd say, and very direct. I'm known for it. Is I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to be a no bullshit speaker, because I'm not going to speak to you. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to train you, and my authenticity came out of distinctions. So I always tell people, find a space that you want to be in, whether it is time management. I don't think you can manage time. So I think that's just a funny topic anyway. You can self-manage, because I think there's more about yourself that you got to manage. But I think they need to get close to somebody, start talking, however they talk. I don't care if it's on just social media or a podcast, but to do this, Big Daddy, I would never tell somebody that's starting to go here. And don't you find too, Tyler, that as people begin their podcast, they grow into their voice? Absolutely. So for those of you that are standing around thinking to start, just begin. And if you don't get a lot of traction from the beginning, I always call those your practice years, right? You're getting your authentic voice. I look back at some of the stuff I wrote in 2003 and 4, and I'm like, oh my God. But it's the best I knew then. And that's what I tell a lot of beginners. It's the best I knew then. And I can look at a lot of people 10, 20 years younger than me. It's the best they know. I'm only 20 years older. I know more. And it's just because I've been on this planet longer and I've had more experience. But I was just, I guess I say that out of encouraging those of you who listen to just begin getting your voice. Don't spend a lot of money on a lot of other tools. And I'm just curious. I mean, that's my philosophy. How do you kind of fall in that, add to it, edit it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you mentioned it, right? You found a team and then you wanted to be around them so you can kind of learn the game and get the experience on your belt. So now you found that authentic voice. So yeah, absolutely. Find someone that you can get close with, learn, get some experience so that you can come from a place of power. But that's the amazing thing with podcasts is that you don't even have to be the main guest, right? If you're just starting off, interview awesome high-level people doing awesome things in the direction that you want to head, right? So if you want to, go into business, real estate, whatever the case may be, maybe you want to write a book, but you can literally start a podcast on interviewing high-level authors. Hey, would love to hear about your story. I want to promote you. You're adding value. You're building your network, and then that can create opportunities. But then once you kind of, heard it from the horse's mouth, right? Like you can understand some trends and patterns of what these authors have done to get to where they are, and then really understand kind of what your own philosophy and authentic voice is going to be. And then you can kind of stem it off and branch it off the way you want. But yeah, that's why a lot of people love podcasts, because it will grow your network and you can just interview people that have that experience, leverage it like you leverage the Kiyosaki brand for speaking. But yeah, absolutely. Put yourself out there, start interviewing people. Speaking, I totally agree. If you can go to Toastmasters, start speaking as well, that's going to get you the confidence and really come from a place of truth at some level. And we all have that truth. Like if you're,
I'm going to say all level.
Right?
I want to hear truth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the truth, right? It's like if you have some experience, if you don't have that business experience, or you don't have that money-making experience, what truths do you have in your life where you can sit down and you can talk to someone that without a shadow of a doubt that this is happening in your life and this is the truth? You have to start there. And taking it a step further, as the Gary Vee method is just documenting what's going on and then interviewing people that have already done it.
Yep.
That's going to give you plenty of content that you can talk about. And even there's a couple books out there like Chicken Soup for the Soul. You can literally interview people to be authors of the different chapters in your book. And you can just write one specific chapter of how you connected all these people into a best-selling book. You know what I mean? So it's like, you just got to be creative and come from a place of truth and transparency. And if you do that, you're going to do well. And that's what people want, because there's a lot of people that don't do that, and people can really go through it.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. I always call the internet the bathroom wall, because anybody can write anything. So it's not a place to do due diligence, but it's a place where you will be performing as a new stage in the world. For those of you listening, if you would go to Ask Loral, AskLoral, AskLoral.com, you can ask any question, make a request, and we do have our marketplace. It's a place where you get to come and make money. We do it every 3 weeks. So just go to AskLoral.com and say, hey, when's your next marketplace? I want to get signed up. It's a free ticket. Be my guest and join us then. I have one big, and it's the powerhouse question of our interview, Tyler. Go through a list of things or strategies. How do you monetize, right? Because once you get your voice, once you're out here and you have an audience, obviously we'll teach you during our marketplace how to funnel, how to price, how to get your offers set up, how to do all that. But what are this podcast monetization? I hear so many people say, that's their whole goal, is to monetize a podcast, and sponsors is obvious. So I'll start you off with that one, and then I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the best way to monetize is going to be through your own personal business, right? Because at a very high level, podcast is on three things, allows you to do three things: get you the exposure. You then want to convert that exposure so then you can eventually monetize. So how do you get more exposure? How do you monetize? You can get featured on other people's shows. You can do speaking engagements. You can get high-level celebrity guests onto your show. You can do video content. Those are all really great ways to get you more exposure. Then the next step is, how do you convert that exposure? You now need to get them over to some sort of a list or a community, whether it's a Facebook group, a LinkedIn group, Voxer, email list, text list, anything to then kind of build that relationship with them. Because this is where a lot of people will drop the ball, because a lot of people were like, hey, I was on Clubhouse. I was speaking in front of 100,000 people on Clubhouse. And I said, okay, great. How many emails did you collect? And they look at me like deers in the headlights, and they didn't do that. So it's like, I can have all this exposure, but if I don't convert it into a list, then I don't own any of that data. So that's the next step, is getting clear on how do I can convert that exposure into a list, and that's done through different ways. You can do it through a lot of different ways. So free lead magnets, giveaways is a very popular method to do it, and one of the best ways to do it. Why? Because you can put a giveaway to win, let's say $2,500, win a Rolex, win a Louis Vuitton bag, whatever the case may be, into your current audience to get them to come over to the show to not only opt in, but also to download and subscribe. Also, you can get them for someone that doesn't know who you are, put it in front of them, and they may not know who your show is or what your brand is, but they may be interested in learning how to win a Louis Vuitton bag or whatever the case may be. So then at that point, once they're on your list, you now have control and you have distribution. And so at this point, monetization can come up in so many different ways, but the best way is to then build a relationship with them. Ask them, hey, what are you working on? What motivated you to listen to the show? What do you like most about the show? What are some of the problems and struggles that you have right now? They're going to tell you exactly what it is, right? And so at that point, if I build the relationship, and let's say, on this show, maybe you have a lot of people that are like, hey, I really want to get into real estate. I just want to close my very first deal. Let's say that keeps coming up. And let's say we have 10,000 people. What we can do is be like, hey, based off the feedback that we've been getting from the group, you guys want to land your first real estate deal. So we created this program that's going to teach you in the next 90 days. It's going to walk you through how to land your first real estate deal or your money back. We're going to work with you for free for an additional 90 days. And if we're unable to do that, we'll just give you a full refund. We're going to be charging, let's say, $10,000 for this, but for the podcast listeners, we're going to be charging $5,000. And so we're going to cap it out at 100 people. Let's say that. So 5,000 times 100, well, that's $500,000, $500,000. And that's going to be the ebb and flow of how you're going to really want to monetize your audience. Is you're not selling anything. In fact, I may not even have that product or service created at all. Product development should really be the very last thing that you should do. And then let's say, you're targeting an audience that can't afford high tickets. So then maybe it's like, hey, how can I reach the masses, give them tremendous information? So at a lower price point, let's create a book. So now you can do the math. Let's say we convert 20% of 10,000 people, 2,000 times a $30 book. What is that? $60,000 just through that. And so just know that the bigger the audience that know, likes, and trusts you, the more ways you're going to be able to monetize. So that's going to be through your specific business. Another great way you can do that is through sponsorships. There's a lot of cool ways you can do that. Is if, let's say, you keep getting something about real estate, maybe you're not an expert in real estate, you partner with someone, and that's technically a sponsor. You can set up a sponsor or joint venture partnership where you can do it just a commission based on all the sales that person makes when they get featured onto your show. You can also do like a flat fee every single month, every single quarter, every single year. You can also do a flat fee for just a feature. I know some guys, they'll do business coaching. They'll do like a $30,000 package business coaching, and they'll help you with X, Y, and Z. And one of the deliverables is you get featured onto the podcast. Why? Because that's going to give them so much more exposure and access to a bigger audience, which is going to be more marketing and exposure for their business. So maybe you have a business package now that's like, $30,000 to work with you for 12 months. And maybe you have a business platinum program, which is $35,000, which then provides that additional feature onto the podcast, just because you have the audience and you have the statistics behind how many people are going to actually see it. So not only can you help them write a book, build their business, but also you can also accelerate their podcast growth as well.
Those are good.
So those would be the main ways.
I have to say, like, the one that I use all the time in my marketplace, because I do that every 3 weeks, is anyone who makes 1,000 or more, because I'm really pushing them and incenting them to make money, they get to be featured on my podcast. So that's a fun one that you said that, because for someone who's new to become a client, they love it. They love being featured. So give us one last tip. We've got to wrap up. Tyler, we have to have you back because we could talk forever. We'll have to have an episode number 2 on this one. What's one last strategy or piece of advice you'd have for our listening audience today?
Short form video content. You want to be posting as much short form video content as possible. If you're not at 1 video a day, you definitely want to get to that point. You eventually want to get to 3 to 5 videos a day. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a couple of snacks. Now, that's usually not sustainable for the person just starting off, but if you look at all the highest level people in the space, they're putting out as much video content as possible. And as this episode is being recorded today on September 13, 2022, the organic exposure reach from short form video content is absolutely insane. Why? Because they're all competing. You have TikTok that's giving you organic reach. You have Instagram Reels that are giving you organic reach, and you have YouTube Shorts. And so if I'm getting more videos on one platform other than the other, I'm going to most likely double down on that platform. So all these platforms are aware of that. So what they're going to do is push your videos organically, and this is the time to do it. If you can create that short form video content by creating specific topics each time for the video, that's great. But with the podcast, if you have a 30 to 60 minute segment, the best way is just to dice it up in the 60 seconds or less. Pump the social media channels with these gold nuggets and gems from each interview that you do. And again, that's going to get your exposure. You give them a call to action. That's going to grow your email list, and that's going to be able to monetize. So that's the last piece, is that if you guys aren't at that level, build your audience, get the exposure, organic, short form video. Anyone can do it. You can do it for free. If you have a smartphone, have any of the social media, so they can literally implement that today and start getting a bigger audience and more reach.
Awesome. Tyler, is there a website you want to hand people out if they want to follow you?
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Tyler Cerny on LinkedIn, or Tyler D as in Daniel Cerny on Instagram. Those are going to be the best 2 ways to connect with me. If you have any specific questions, just reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help you out there.
Awesome. Tyler, it's been great to have you on Laurel's World Money Talks. The rest of you, all of you listening, go to asklaurel.com right now. And what's one thing you learned? Just put it in the chat box that's out there, the forum box, and our team responds to every request, every question, and every comment. So let's stay in touch and stay tuned. We'll be back next week.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Real Money Talks podcast. Your host has been Laurel Langmeyer, author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, money expert on Dr. Phil, CNN, CNBC, The Street TV, Fox News, and The View. Want to learn more about off-Wall Street investing, tax strategies, and multi-million-dollar business strategies? Visit liveoutloud.com/podcast for past episodes, show notes, and resources. For some special wealth-building gifts only for Laurel's podcast listeners, visit liveoutloud.com/podcast gifts. Do you have a burning question for Laurel? Visit asklaurel.com to submit your question, and it may just be covered on a podcast episode. So stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to get new episodes every week.